15 years of peace. 15 years protecting Eternia, battling Skeletor in their familiar dance of hero versus villain, maintaining the delicate balance that kept their world safe. Prince Adam had almost convinced himself that his time in the Star Wars galaxy was a fever dream, a strange interlude in his eternal duty as He-Man, champion of Eternia. Then the nightmares began. He-Man stood in Castle Grayskull's throne room, the ancient fortress pulsing with mystical energy around him. The sorceress hovered before him in her falcon form, her voice echoing with concern that transcended her usual serene wisdom. "The visions grow stronger each night," she said, her ethereal presence shimmering. "You see him, don't you? Your enemy from that distant galaxy." Skeletor. He-Man's jaw clenched. "But not the Skeletor. I fight here on Eternia. The other one, the version that stayed in that galaxy. He's different now, stronger, darker. They are the same being, Adam. When you both traveled to that reality, a connection formed, a bond through the Force and through your eternal conflict. What he does there echoes here, just as your actions there left ripples in their galaxy." The sorceress's tone grew grave. "Show me what you've seen." He-Man closed his eyes, and the power of Grayskull amplified his Force-touched memories. Images flooded the throne room, holographic manifestations of his visions. Skeletor sitting on a throne of twisted metal, criminal warlords kneeling before him, star systems burning, Imperial officers swearing allegiance to a new master, and everywhere the skeletal sorcerer's laugh echoing across planets. "He's done it," He-Man whispered. "Everything he threatened. He's built an empire within the empire." More than that. The sorceress gestured and the visions shifted. "Look closer, Adam. See what your enemy has become." The image zoomed to Skeletor's face, and He-Man gasped. His ancient foe's eyes burned with power that transcended anything he'd possessed on Eternia. The Force and Eternian magic had continued merging over 15 years, creating something unprecedented. Skeletor hadn't just adapted to that galaxy. He'd evolved, becoming a being of such dark potential that even Palpatine might not be able to stop him. "If he overthrows the Emperor," He-Man said slowly, "he becomes the most powerful tyrant that galaxy has ever known. Billions will suffer under his rule. That is the danger." The sorceress descended, her form shifting into her humanoid aspect, a woman of ethereal beauty and terrible wisdom. "But there is another concern, Adam. Skeletor's actions in that reality are affecting ours. The magical balance between you grows unstable. If he claims ultimate power there, it may grant him similar power here. Your eternal conflict could end with his victory." He-Man's fists clenched. "Then I have to go back, stop him before you abandon Eternia again." The sorceress's question was gentle but pointed. "You are our champion, Adam. The power of Grayskull exists to protect this world. If you leave, even briefly, what happens when Skeletor attacks here? When Beastman raids villages? When Merman threatens the seas? When Evil Lyn casts her spells?" "I know my duty," He-Man said, frustration bleeding into his voice. "But I can't let that galaxy suffer because of something I started. I brought Skeletor there, his evolution, his power. It's partly my fault for leaving him unchecked." "Or perhaps," the sorceress mused, "it was always meant to happen. The Force works in mysterious ways, Adam. Your presence in that galaxy inspired resistance, saved Jedi survivors, showed them that tyranny could be defied. Skeletor's presence serves a different purpose. Serving as a worse tyrant than Palpatine isn't a purpose, it's a nightmare." "Is it?" The sorceress's eyes held ancient knowledge. "Sometimes, Adam, the galaxy needs its villains as much as its heroes. Skeletor's ambition may inadvertently create the chaos necessary for true change. The Rebel Alliance you helped inspire, they grow stronger in the shadows of Imperial distraction. If Skeletor and Palpatine war against each other, innocent people die in the crossfire, He-Man finished firmly. I won't justify inaction with philosophy. If I can stop Skeletor from claiming that galaxy, I have to try. The sorceress studied him for a long moment, then nodded slowly. Very well, I will help you return. But Adam, this time, the journey will be different. 15 years ago, you were pulled through accidentally. This time you go willingly, and the cost will be higher. The power of Grayskull was never meant to function permanently across dimensional barriers. What cost? Your connection to Eternia will weaken with every day you remain in that galaxy. After a month, perhaps 2, the power of Grayskull may fade entirely. You would be trapped there, powerless, mortal. Her expression softened. And Eternia would lose its champion. He-Man looked around Castle Grayskull, the fortress he'd defended countless times, the seat of power he'd sworn to protect. He thought of his parents, King Randor and Queen Marlena, who didn't know their son, and He-Man were the same person. He thought of Teela, Man-at-Arms, Orko, everyone who depended on him. Then he thought of the younglings he'd saved from the Jedi Temple, the survivors he'd inspired, the billions who would suffer under Skeletor's rule. How long do I have to stop him? He-Man asked quietly. The vision suggests Skeletor will make his move within weeks. His coup against Palpatine is imminent. The sorceress raised her hands, and mystical energy began swirling around them. I can open a portal using the same celestial frequency you traveled before. But Adam, be certain. Once you cross, there may be no return. He-Man raised his sword, feeling the power of Grayskull surge through him one more time. I'm certain Eternia will have to survive without me for a little while. That galaxy needs He-Man now more than ever. Then, by the power of Grayskull, the sorceress's voice rose with ancient authority. I open the way between worlds. Go, champion of Eternia. Face your destiny in a galaxy far, far away. Light erupted from Castle Grayskull's throne room, tearing open reality itself. Through the dimensional rift, He-Man saw stars he recognized, the galaxy he'd left 15 years ago, now darker, more troubled, teetering on the edge of chaos. He-Man stepped through the portal without hesitation. The rift closed behind him with a sound like reality weeping, and on Eternia, the sorceress collapsed, exhausted by the immense magical expenditure. May the power of Grayskull protect you, Adam, she whispered to the empty throne room. Because I fear what you'll find has grown beyond even your strength to contain. In the Star Wars galaxy, in the depths of space near the Outer Rim, a golden warrior materialized in a flash of mystical light. He-Man floated in the vacuum for only a moment before the power of Grayskull protected him, creating a temporary field of breathable atmosphere. He looked out at the stars, feeling the force wash over him like an old familiar current. It welcomed him back, this energy field that had learned to work with Eternian magic. But beneath the welcome, he felt darkness, vast, ambitious, and terrifyingly familiar. Skeletor's presence blazed like a dark star across the galaxy, no longer hidden or subtle. His ancient enemy had stopped hiding, stopped scheming in shadows. The Lord of Destruction was ready to claim his empire. And somewhere, equally powerful and infinitely more patient, Emperor Palpatine waited. He-Man smiled grimly. I'm back, Skeletor, and this time our fight ends, one way or another. He reached out with the Force, sensing for the nearest planet, the nearest ship, the nearest sign of civilization. He had weeks at most to stop a coup that had been 15 years in the making. The game had begun again. Hero versus villain, light versus dark. But this time the stakes were higher than ever before. The galaxy would never be the same. In the throne room of his flagship, a captured Imperial Star Destroyer, renamed the Havoc's Throne, Skeletor stood before a holographic display showing the galaxy divided into spheres of influence. Red sectors represented Palpatine's direct control. Purple sectors showed Skeletor's Shadow Empire, and the growing patches of green indicated systems ready to rebel against both. 15 years, Skeletor said to the assembled figures before him. 15 years of careful cultivation, strategic corruption, and patient empire building. Today, we reap what we've sown. The audience consisted of crime lords, corrupted Imperial officers, dark force users he'd trained personally, and something new, Eternian expatriates. When Skeletor had remained in this galaxy, others from Eternia had occasionally fallen through dimensional tiers. Most were his former servants, Beastman, Trapjaw, Merman. In this galaxy, with the Force enhancing their abilities, they'd become far more formidable. Beastman, his fur now crackling with dark side energy, growled his approval. The Empire's forces are divided. Half the admirals in the Outer Rim answer to us now. And the criminal syndicates have mobilized their fleets, added a Hutt representative, its bulk quivering with anticipation. Black Sun, Pikes, even the Hutts have agreed to your leadership, Lord Skeletor. The promise of legitimate territory is persuasive. Skeletor's skeletal smile widened. Palpatine thought he could control crime through fear and manipulation. I offered them something better, partnership, a seat at the table of a new order. They know I keep my promises, unlike the Emperor's hollow assurances. Trapjaw, his cybernetic enhancements upgraded with Imperial technology, activated another display. Our spies confirm Palpatine suspects the coup, but doesn't know the full scope. He's fortified Coruscant, recalled Vader from his mission in the Mid-Rim, and activated the Inquisitorius. He's preparing for a challenge. Good. Skeletor's eyes blazed with dark fire. Let him prepare. Let him gather his forces. When we strike, I want him to see it coming. I want him to understand that all his planning, all his manipulation, all his Sith mastery, none of it was enough. Evil Lyn materialized from shadows at the chamber's edge. She'd arrived in this galaxy 5 years ago, drawn by the dimensional instability Skeletor's presence created. Unlike the others, she hadn't simply served, she'd evolved, becoming a sorceress assassin who combined Eternian magic with Night Sister techniques. The Force-sensitive children you requested have been secured, she reported, her voice cold and efficient. 12 candidates, ages 7 to 14, the youngest Imperial Inquisitors, stolen from Palpatine's own training facilities. Excellent. Skeletor approached the hologram of a young girl, her aura showing remarkable Force potential. The Emperor thinks the Inquisitorius belongs to him, but these children know only one master now, me. They'll be my Knights of Destruction, warriors who blend the Force with Eternian combat techniques. You're creating child soldiers, came a voice from the chamber's entrance. How disappointingly predictable. Every weapon in the room turned toward the speaker. Darth Vader stood in the doorway. His crimson lightsaber ignited, his presence in the Force, a maelstrom of conflict and barely controlled rage. Skeletor, however, merely smiled. Lord Vader, right on time. I was wondering when you'd discover my operations. Your spies are everywhere, Vader said, his mechanical breathing filling the tense silence. I've executed 17 of them in the past month, but you have more. You always have more. He stepped into the chamber, and Skeletor's followers tensed. The Emperor knows about your coup. He sent me to deliver a message. Oh, does he offer surrender? Skeletor's tone was mocking. He offers you a choice. Vader's eyes, visible through his mask's red lenses, held something unexpected. Not loyalty to Palpatine, but calculation. Join him as a true partner, not an apprentice, not a subordinate, a co-ruler of the Empire. Two masters of darkness, dividing the galaxy between you. Skeletor laughed, a sound that made even his hardened followers flinch. How generous, and what would the Emperor gain from this arrangement? Your networks, your forces, your knowledge of Eternian magic integrated with the Force. Vader's tone suggested he was merely reciting, not advocating. Together, you would be unstoppable. The Rebel Alliance would crumble. The galaxy would know true order. And if I refuse, then he will destroy you. Vader's statement held certainty. Not immediately, not easily, but eventually, the Emperor always wins. I speak from experience. Skeletor studied the Sith Lord with new interest. You've changed since our last encounter. Less certain, less devoted. That golden fool's mercy left a mark, didn't it? You're questioning your master. I question nothing, Vader snapped, but the denial rang hollow. Liar, Skeletor gestured, and his followers lowered their weapons. You've been questioning for 15 years, ever since He-Man defeated you and chose mercy over execution. That single act of heroism planted a seed of doubt that's been growing ever since. Now you stand here, delivering your master's offer, wondering if perhaps the galaxy would be better off with new management. Vader's rage exploded outward, the Force lashing out to crush everyone in the room. But Skeletor raised his Havoc staff, and Eternian magic met Darkside fury in a collision that cracked the floor. They stood locked in power, neither yielding, while Skeletor's followers scrambled for cover. Impressive, Skeletor hissed. You've grown stronger, but so have I. Want to know the real reason Palpatine sent you instead of coming himself? Because he's afraid that if you and I fought, you might realize you don't need him, might realize that you could rule without his chains. The Emperor is my master, Vader insisted, but his conviction wavered. The Emperor is a parasite who's been feeding on your pain and anger for decades. Skeletor released his power, ending the telekinetic clash. I offer you something Palpatine never will, honest partnership, not as apprentice and master, but as equals. You have the military might and Force mastery. I have the networks and Eternian knowledge. Together, we overthrow Palpatine and divide the galaxy as true partners. Vader stood frozen, his mind clearly racing. You would trust me? I could kill you right now. You could try, Skeletor corrected. But you won't, because deep down, Vader, you hate Palpatine as much as you serve him. He's the architect of everything you've lost. Your wife, your humanity, your identity as Anakin Skywalker. I'm merely offering you a chance at revenge, disguised as ambition. The chamber fell silent except for Vader's mechanical breathing. Every being present understood the weight of this moment. Vader's choice would determine the galaxy's future. Loyalty to Palpatine meant the coup faced the Empire's full might. Betrayal meant Skeletor gained the galaxy's most feared enforcer. I need time, Vader finally said. To consider. Of course, Skeletor's smile was magnanimous. You have 3 days. After that, the coup begins whether you've joined me or not. Choose wisely, Lord Vader. This offer comes once. Vader turned and departed without another word, his cape billowing behind him. When he'd gone, Evil Lyn approached Skeletor cautiously. Do you actually trust him? She asked. Trust? No, but I understand him. Skeletor gazed at the star map, his mind already calculating. Vader is a weapon looking for a wielder who doesn't also hold his leash. If he joins us, excellent. If he doesn't, he'll hesitate when the moment comes to defend Palpatine. Either outcome serves my purposes. Beastman snarled his concern. And what if that golden fool returns? He-Man, he stopped us before. He-Man is on Eternia, protecting his precious castle Grayskull, Skeletor said dismissively. Even if he sensed what's happening here, the dimensional barriers are too strong. The sorceress's magic alone can't breach them anymore. No, my old enemy is trapped on Eternia while I conquer an entire galaxy. Poetic, don't you think? But even as he spoke, Skeletor felt something, a disturbance in the Force, a ripple of pure heroic energy that made his skeletal form tense with recognition. Somewhere in this galaxy, something had just arrived that didn't belong. Something powerful, something familiar. Impossible, Skeletor whispered. Evil Lyn noticed his reaction. What is it? Nothing. Skeletor forced confidence back into his voice. A phantom, a ghost from the past. It doesn't matter. Begin the final preparations. In 3 days, we strike Coruscant. The Empire falls, and a new order rises from its ashes. His followers dispersed to their assignments, leaving Skeletor alone with the star map. He stared at it for a long moment, then reached out with the Force, searching for that familiar presence. And found it. No, Skeletor breathed. A mix of fury and something that might have been anticipation flooding through him. You couldn't have. The barriers, the distance, the power required, it's impossible. But the presence was unmistakable. Somewhere in this galaxy, He-Man had returned. Skeletor's laugh started low and built to a crescendo that echoed through the flagship. Oh, this is perfect. This is absolutely perfect. 15 years, old enemy. 15 years to prepare, to grow, to evolve beyond your ability to stop me. You're too late. The coup is inevitable, but I'm glad you're here to witness it. He raised his Havoc staff to the stars, power crackling around him. Welcome back, He-Man. Let's finish what we started. The galaxy trembled. He-Man found civilization on Tatooine, of all places. The desert world hadn't changed much in 15 years, still lawless, still controlled by Hutts, still a haven for smugglers and scoundrels. But now it also hosted something new, rebellion. In a dingy cantina in Mos Eisley, He-Man sat across from a Twi'lek woman named Hera Syndulla. She was a pilot, a rebel cell leader, and according to the whispered conversations he'd overheard, one of the key organizers of the growing resistance against the Empire. She studied him with sharp, analytical eyes that missed nothing. So you're the legend, Hera said, nursing a glass of Corellian whiskey. The Golden Warrior who saved Jedi younglings during Order 66. The story said you disappeared 15 years ago. I went home. He-Man kept his voice low in the crowded cantina. But I've returned because something worse than Palpatine is about to emerge. Worse than the Emperor. Hera's skepticism was evident. That's quite a claim. We've been fighting his tyranny for years, and I've never seen anything more dangerous than that old Sith's control. His name is Skeletor, Lord of Destruction, Master of Eternian magic and dark side power. He-Man leaned forward, urgency in his tone. He's been building a shadow empire within yours for 15 years. Criminal syndicates, corrupted officers, stolen Force-sensitive children. When he makes his move, the galaxy will burn. Hera studied him carefully. You're serious? You actually believe this? Skeletor poses a greater threat than Palpatine. I don't believe it. I know it. He-Man's eyes held the weight of eternal conflict. I've fought him my entire life. He's brilliant, ruthless, and infinitely ambitious. The only thing that's kept him from total victory on my world is me. Here, without my constant opposition, he's had 15 years to grow unchecked. And you want the rebellion's help to stop him? No. He-Man shook his head. I want to warn you. When Skeletor and Palpatine clash, and they will very soon, Your rebellion needs to stay out of the way. Let them tear each other apart, then move against whoever survives." Hera's expression hardened. "You want us to stand aside while two tyrants war over who gets to oppress the galaxy? That's not how the rebellion works." "That's exactly how smart resistance works," He-Man countered. "I've fought tyranny my entire life. Sometimes the best strategy is letting your enemies destroy each other before you strike. Palpatine is powerful, but he's also predictable. Skeletor is chaos incarnate. Their conflict will create opportunities you couldn't engineer in decades." Before Hera could respond, alarms blared throughout the cantina. Patrons scrambled for exits as Imperial stormtroopers flooded in, weapons raised. But these weren't standard troops. Their armor bore purple markings, Skeletor's symbol. "Well," Hera muttered, drawing her blaster. "Looks like your warning came just in time." The lead trooper pointed at He-Man. "By order of Lord Skeletor, you are to be apprehended and brought before him immediately. Surrender or be destroyed." He-Man stood slowly, his massive frame dwarfing everyone in the cantina. "Tell Skeletor if he wants me, he can come get me himself. I'm not surrendering to his lapdogs." The troopers opened fire. Blaster bolts filled the air. Patrons screamed, and Hera dove for cover. But He-Man was already moving. The sword of power appeared in his hand. He'd learned to summon it through force connection over the years, and he deflected the barrage with superhuman speed. "Everyone out!" He-Man shouted, positioning himself between civilians and soldiers. "This is between me and them." Hera ignored the order, instead taking precision shots that dropped 3 troopers in rapid succession. "I don't abandon allies mid-fight," she called out. "Rebellion Lesson 1. Together they fought. He-Man's sword rang against blaster fire, each deflected shot finding its mark with force-guided precision. Hera moved with practiced efficiency, her pilot's reflexes serving her well in ground combat. Within minutes, the corrupted Imperial troops lay stunned or fleeing. In the aftermath, surrounded by unconscious stormtroopers, Hera holstered her blaster and studied He-Man with new respect. "You didn't kill any of them." "They're not evil," He-Man said, checking on wounded civilians. "Just corrupted, controlled. Skeletor's magic can twist good people into servants. It's not their fault." "That's..." Hera paused. "Actually kind of noble. Most warriors with your power wouldn't show that kind of restraint." "I'm not most warriors." He-Man helped an injured Rhodian to safety. "I'm a hero. It's what I do." Hera's communicator buzzed. She answered, her expression growing grim as she listened. "Understood. We'll rendezvous at the safe house." She looked at He-Man. "That was Phoenix Squadron. They've detected massive fleet movements near Coruscant, Imperial and non-Imperial forces gathering. Your coup is happening." "Already?" He-Man frowned. "I thought I had more time." "Apparently not." Hera started toward her ship, a modified VCX-100 light freighter called the Ghost. "Come with me. You want to stop Skeletor? The rebellion can get you to Coruscant, but you have to promise me something." "What?" "When this is over, when Skeletor and Palpatine have finished tearing each other apart, you help us rebuild. Use that power of yours for more than just stopping bad guys. Help us create something better." He-Man hesitated. He'd have weeks at most before the power of Grayskull failed, before he'd be trapped powerless in this galaxy or forced to return home. Could he promise to help rebuild when his time was so limited? But he saw the hope in Hera's eyes, the desperate need for heroes in a galaxy that had precious few. And he made a decision. "I'll help however I can," He-Man said, "for as long as I'm able. That's the best promise I can make." "Then it's a deal." Hera extended her hand. "Welcome to the rebellion, He-Man. Let's go save a galaxy." They boarded the Ghost and lifted off. leaving Tatooine's desert behind. As they jumped to hyperspace, heading for Coruscant and the confrontation that would reshape the galaxy, He-Man felt the power of Grayskull surge within him. 1 month, maybe 2. That's all the time he had before his power faded. He'd have to make it count. Across the galaxy, on his flagship, Skeletor felt his ancient enemies approach through the Force. He smiled his skeletal smile and began the final preparations. 15 years of planning, 15 years of growth. Now finally, the eternal conflict would reach its climax. "Come then, He-Man," Skeletor whispered to the stars. "Let's see if your heroism can stop 15 years of perfected ambition." The coup was beginning. The galaxy held its breath. And 2 warriors from Eternia prepared to collide one final time. Darth Vader stood in his meditation chamber aboard the Executor, his personal superstar destroyer, facing the decision that would define his future. The chamber was designed to allow him to remove his mask safely, to breathe without mechanical assistance for precious minutes while Bacta Mist sustained him. But today, he kept the mask on. Today, he needed the armor's strength. 3 days. Skeletor had given him 3 days to choose between Palpatine and Revolution. The chamber's walls displayed memories pulled from the Force, fragments of his past that haunted him constantly. Padme dying on Mustafar. The younglings in the temple, terrified faces looking up at him. Obi-Wan's expression of betrayal on Mustafar, and newer memories. He-Man's mercy, the Golden Warrior choosing compassion over execution. "Master," Vader spoke into the calm, his voice carefully controlled. "I must speak with you. It concerns Skeletor's coup." Palpatine's hologram materialized instantly, his hooded form radiating dark authority even through projection. "Ah, my apprentice, have you delivered my offer?" "He refused, my master. He intends to proceed with the coup regardless." Vader paused. "He also offered me partnership, an equal division of power if I betray you." A lesser Sith Lord would have raged at this revelation. Palpatine merely smiled. "And you report this to me faithfully. Good. Your loyalty is appreciated." However, Vader continued, and the Emperor's smile faltered slightly. "I must know the truth, Master. Did you manipulate Skeletor's arrival in our galaxy? Did you orchestrate his growth, his corruption of Imperial systems, his 15 years of preparation?" Silence stretched between them, heavy with implication. Finally, Palpatine spoke, his voice honeyed with false concern. "Why would you ask such a question, my friend?" "Because it serves your purposes perfectly," Vader said, and his tone held an edge it rarely possessed when addressing his master. "Skeletor builds a shadow empire, identifies corrupt officers, gathers criminals and dissidents. When he launches his coup, you don't need to hunt down traitors. They reveal themselves. His rebellion becomes a purge mechanism." Clever speculation. Palpatine's approval was genuine. "You've learned to think strategically. I am pleased." "Answer the question, Master. Did you engineer this?" The Emperor's hologram flickered with amusement. "Not engineered, guided. When those Eternians arrived 15 years ago, I recognized opportunity. The hero would leave eventually. His type always returns home. But the villain? Villains are predictable creatures, Lord Vader. They seek power. I merely created conditions for Skeletor to seek it in ways that benefit me." Vader's hands clenched into fists. "You've been using him." "As I use everyone," Palpatine said simply. "Including you, my apprentice. That is what it means to be a Sith Master. Every piece serves the grand design." The admission struck Vader like a physical blow. He'd known on some level that Palpatine manipulated him. But hearing it stated so casually, so dismissively, it ignited something he'd kept buried since Mustafar. Rage, not at the Jedi, not at the galaxy, but at his master. "You promised me power to save Padme," Vader said quietly. "You promised the dark side could prevent death. It was all manipulation. She died anyway." "She died because you choked her," Palpatine corrected coldly. "Your rage killed her, not my teachings. I merely showed you a path. You chose to walk it." "You knew I would." Vader's voice rose to a roar. "You orchestrated everything. The visions, the fear, the isolation. You turned me into this." He gestured at his armored form. "You made me into a weapon, a tool, and now you admit it freely because you don't fear me anymore. Why would I fear you?" Palpatine's tone was almost pitying. "You are powerful, yes, my greatest creation. But you are also broken, dependent on that suit, limited by your injuries. Without me, you would be nothing. The Empire would tear you apart. The rebels would hunt you. You need me, Lord Vader. You will always need me." Something snapped inside Vader's psyche, a chain that had held him since Mustafar, since Padme's death, since the moment he'd fallen. He'd told himself he served Palpatine by choice, that the dark side gave him purpose. But it was all lies. He was a slave, just as he'd been a slave on Tatooine. The chains were different, but no less real. "I made a choice once," Vader said, his voice dangerously calm. "On Mustafar, I chose power over love, ambition over compassion. I've regretted it every day since. Now I face another choice. Continue serving a master who sees me as a tool, or risk everything on uncertain freedom. Choose carefully," Palpatine warned. "The galaxy is a dangerous place for former Sith Lords. Without the Empire's protection—" "I don't need protection," Vader interrupted. "I need purpose. Something beyond serving your endless machinations." He thought of He-Man, of the Golden Warrior's unwavering conviction that redemption was possible. "Someone once showed me mercy when I deserved death. Perhaps it's time to discover if I'm capable of more than just being your enforcer." The Emperor's expression darkened. "You would betray me after everything I've given you? You've given me nothing but pain and false promises." Vader's lightsaber ignited, its crimson blade reflecting off his mask. "I'm done being your apprentice, Palpatine. Consider this my resignation." He severed the connection, cutting off the Emperor's hologram mid-rage. Alarms immediately began blaring throughout the Executor. Palpatine would be alerting the crew, commanding them to restrain or eliminate their commander. Vader had perhaps minutes before his own flagship turned against him. He strode from the meditation chamber with purpose, his cape billowing behind him. Officers and stormtroopers appeared in the corridors, weapons raised but hesitant. These soldiers had served under Vader for years. They feared him, respected him, and in some cases genuinely admired his tactical brilliance. "Stand down," Vader commanded, his voice carrying the weight of the Force. "I am leaving. Anyone who attempts to stop me will die. Anyone who lets me pass will be spared." The troopers exchanged glances, their loyalty warring with self-preservation. One by one, they lowered their weapons. Vader passed through the ship unchallenged until he reached the hangar bay where his personal TIE advanced fighter waited. Admiral Piet, the Executor's commander, stood before the fighter with a dozen officers. His expression was conflicted. Duty against pragmatism, orders against reality. "Lord Vader," Piet said carefully, "the Emperor has commanded your arrest. I cannot—" He paused, making a decision. "I cannot stop you, but I must ask, where will you go?" "Somewhere I can make a real difference," Vader replied. "Not as Palpatine's weapon, but as something else. I don't know what yet, but I'll discover it." "Then take this." Piet handed him a datapad. "Coordinates for a safe house. rebel sympathizers within the Imperial fleet. We exist, Lord Vader. We've been waiting for someone with the power and will to challenge the Emperor. If you're truly leaving, we want to help." Vader stared at the datapad, processing this revelation. There was a resistance within his own fleet. Officers who'd served him while secretly hoping for the Empire's fall. It was almost poetic. "Why?" Vader asked. "Because we've watched you question," Piet said simply. "We've seen your hesitation during certain orders. We've hoped that the great Anakin Skywalker wasn't completely dead. Perhaps we were right." The name sent pain lancing through Vader's psyche, but also something else. A fragile, nascent hope. Anakin Skywalker died on Mustafar. Then perhaps it's time for him to be reborn. Piet saluted formally. "May the Force be with you, Lord Vader, or whoever you choose to become." Vader boarded his TIE fighter without another word. As he launched from the Executor, he felt the chains truly fall away for the first time in 15 years. He was free, terrified, uncertain, but free. He set course for the coordinates Piet provided and sent a coded message to Skeletor's flagship. "I accept your offer, but I have conditions. I don't serve anymore. I don't kneel. We're partners or we're enemies. Choose." On the Havoc's throne, Skeletor received the message and laughed with genuine delight. "Oh, this is perfect. This is absolutely perfect. The Emperor's enforcer, now my ally. Palpatine, you magnificent fool, you've handed me your greatest weapon." He composed a reply immediately. "Welcome to the winning side, Lord Vader. Together, we'll remake this galaxy. No masters, no apprentices, just two beings of dark power claiming what we deserve." The pieces were falling into place. Skeletor's coup had its military commander. The Empire was fracturing from within. And somewhere in hyperspace, He-Man raced toward Coruscant, unaware of just how complicated the situation had become. Three forces converged on the galaxy's capital. Three philosophies of power: Palpatine's tyrannical control, Skeletor's ambitious conquest, He-Man's heroic protection, would soon collide in a battle that would shake the very foundations of the Force. The galaxy's fate hung in the balance. The Ghost dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of Coruscant's system, and the sight that greeted them was unprecedented. Hundreds of ships filled the space around the capital world, Imperial Star Destroyers bearing standard markings, others with Skeletor's purple insignia, and a massive fleet of criminal vessels representing every major syndicate in the galaxy. Above them all, the Superstar Destroyer Executor hung like a dark omen, its allegiance unclear. "By the Force," Hera breathed, staring at the tactical display. "This isn't a coup. This is a full-scale civil war." He-Man stood beside her, feeling the Force ripple with conflicting energies. Light and dark swirled in chaotic patterns, and beneath it all, he felt Skeletor's presence blazing like a malevolent star. "Where is he?" "Skeletor's flagship is there." Hera pointed to a captured Star Destroyer positioned at the fleet's vanguard. "The Havoc's throne. Intelligence says he rules his empire from there." She glanced at He-Man. "You're really going to board that ship alone?" "It's the only way." He-Man checked his sword, feeling the power of Grayskull pulse steadily, but with a warning tremor. The sorceress's prediction was already manifesting. He could feel his connection to Eternia weakening. "Skeletor and I have to settle this. It's what we've always done." "That's the dumbest tactical decision I've ever heard," Hera said bluntly. "But I've learned that heroes rarely make sense." "All right, we'll provide distraction. Draw off his escort fighters. You get aboard and do whatever it is eternal enemies do when they meet." "We fight," He-Man said simply. "And this time, one of us doesn't walk away." Hera studied him with concern. "You're planning to kill him. I thought you were all about mercy and redemption." Skeletor has had 15 years to change. Instead, he's built an empire of darkness that rivals Palpatine's. Some beings can't be redeemed, Hera. They can only be stopped. He-Man's expression was grim. I've spent my whole life giving him chances. Today, I'm out of chances. The Ghost accelerated toward the fleet as rebel reinforcements began arriving. Phoenix Squadron, a few donated Mon Calamari cruisers, and scattered resistance cells answering Hera's call. They were vastly outnumbered, but that was nothing new for the rebellion. As they approached, a transmission cut across all frequencies. Emperor Palpatine's voice, amplified through the Force, filled the system. Lord Skeletor, you have committed treason against the Galactic Empire. Surrender immediately, and I may show mercy. Resist, and you will be destroyed, along with every ship, every soldier, every criminal who has aligned with your delusions of grandeur. Skeletor's response came immediately, his voice equally amplified, but laced with dark amusement. Mercy. From you, Palpatine. How quaint. I've spent 15 years studying your empire, learning its weaknesses, corrupting its foundations. Your reign is over, old man. Today, a new order begins, my order. And unlike your tyranny built on lies, mine will be founded on honest power and unashamed ambition. You're a fool, Palpatine's voice dripped with contempt. Did you truly believe I didn't foresee this? That I didn't account for your treachery? Every move you've made has been according to my design. You're not a conqueror, Lord Skeletor. You're a pawn who's outlived his usefulness. Then come and collect your pawn, Skeletor taunted. If you dare face me directly, instead of hiding behind fleets and enforcers, or has age made you too cautious for direct confrontation? The challenge hung in the vacuum of space. Then, from Coruscant's surface, a shuttle launched. Not an armed warship or protected convoy, just a single Lambda-class shuttle racing toward the fleet with reckless speed. Every sensor in the system tracked it, recognizing the dark presence within. Emperor Palpatine was accepting the challenge. This is it, Hera said, her voice tight with tension. The moment the galaxy changes forever. 2 Dark Lords meeting in open battle. 3, He-Man corrected. I'm going in too. He moved to the Ghost's airlock, preparing to space jump toward the Havoc's throne. It was insane, suicidal by any rational measure. But He-Man had never been particularly rational when duty called. Wait, Hera grabbed his arm. Take this. She handed him a rebel communicator. So we know if you survive, someone should witness whatever happens up there. He-Man attached the device to his harness and nodded his thanks. Then the airlock opened, and he launched himself into space with Force-enhanced strength. The vacuum couldn't harm him. The power of Grayskull protected him, as it always had. He sailed through the darkness between ships, a golden comet streaking toward destiny. On the Havoc's throne, Skeletor felt his approach and smiled. Right on schedule. Even across dimensional barriers, you remain predictably heroic, old enemy. Come then, let's finish this. Darth Vader stood beside Skeletor on the bridge, his presence radiating conflict. The Emperor approaches as well. My former master. This will be complicated. Complicated, Skeletor laughed. This is perfect. Palpatine, you, He-Man, and myself, all converging for one final confrontation. The galaxy will remember this day as the moment everything changed. Evil Lyn monitored the sensors. Multiple rebel ships detected. Small fleet, but they're attacking our escort fighters. They're creating an opening. Let them. Skeletor waved dismissively. Today isn't about fleets or fighters. Today is about power, who wields it, who deserves it, and who survives to claim it. He turned to his assembled commanders. All forces, engage the Imperial fleet. Make Palpatine fight for every kilometer. But the flagship is mine. Anyone who enters without permission dies." Beastman growled his concern. "You're facing 3 opponents, He-Man, Vader, and the Emperor. Even your power is more than sufficient," Skeletor interrupted coldly. "I am not the fumbling villain who lost to He-Man time and again on Eternia. 15 years in this galaxy have transformed me. Today, you'll witness the full extent of that transformation." He-Man crashed through the Havoc's throne's hangar bay shields with enough force to crater the deck. Corrupted stormtroopers opened fire immediately, but he deflected their shots with casual efficiency. The sword of power sang through the air, disarming rather than killing, even now, even knowing what he had to do. He-Man's heroism compelled mercy. "Stand down!" He-Man's voice boomed across the hangar. "I didn't come for you. I came for your master. Point me towards Skeletor, and no one else needs to get hurt." A Gamorrean guard pointed a trembling finger toward the bridge access corridor before fleeing. He-Man smiled grimly. Even corrupted soldiers recognized when they were outmatched. He moved through the ship with purpose, encountering minimal resistance. Skeletor had clearly ordered his forces to let He-Man pass. His ancient enemy wanted this confrontation as badly as he did. As He-Man walked, he felt the power of Grayskull fluctuate more dramatically. The sorceress had been right. Every moment in this galaxy, every use of his power strained the dimensional connection. He had days now, perhaps hours. He'd have to make them count. The Emperor's shuttle landed in the Havoc's throne's secondary hangar, and Palpatine emerged with regal slowness. No guards, no escorts, just the most powerful Sith Lord in galactic history, walking calmly into his enemy's fortress. Clone troopers bearing Skeletor's colors surrounded him immediately, their weapons trained on the frail-looking old man. Palpatine regarded them with amusement. "Children," he said softly, "do you truly believe your weapons could harm me?" He raised one hand and Force lightning erupted in all directions. Not the focused streams he'd used before, but an omnidirectional storm of dark energy that fried every electronic system in the hangar and reduced the clone troopers to smoking corpses in seconds. When the lightning ceased, Palpatine stood unmarked, his robes barely singed. "Inform your master that I've arrived," Palpatine said to the hangar's surveillance systems, "and that I'm coming to kill him, slowly." On the bridge, Skeletor watched the display and felt genuine excitement. Magnificent. The Emperor in all his terrible glory. This is going to be delightful. Vader shifted uncomfortably. He will not show mercy to either of us. Good. Skeletor's eyes blazed with dark fire. I don't want mercy. I want a battle worthy of the power I've spent 15 years accumulating. Come, Lord Vader, let's greet our guests. They moved to the ship's throne room, a massive chamber Skeletor had constructed specifically for this moment. It was circular, with observation windows showing the space battle raging outside. At its center stood a raised platform where Skeletor's throne sat, carved from black stone and inscribed with both Sith runes and Eternian symbols. He-Man entered from the forward corridor, his sword drawn, his presence radiating heroic determination. Palpatine entered from the aft corridor, his hands folded in his sleeves, his presence radiating ancient malevolence. And on the throne platform, Skeletor and Vader waited, two beings of darkness who'd chosen different paths. 4 warriors, 4 philosophies of power. The throne room fell silent as they regarded each other, measuring capabilities, calculating strategies, preparing for the battle that would reshape the galaxy. He-Man spoke first, his voice steady. Skeletor, stand down. Whatever you're planning, it ends here. It's ending, yes, Skeletor agreed. But not how you imagine. Palpatine's yellow eyes gleamed with malice. "Lord Skeletor. Lord Vader, your betrayal is noted and will be punished. Kneel now, and your deaths will be swift." "I'm done kneeling," Vader said quietly. "To anyone." "Then you are all fools," Palpatine hissed. "And I will educate you in the cost of opposing me." Skeletor rose from his throne, the Havoc staff crackling with power beyond anything he'd wielded before. 15 years of accumulated dark knowledge, Eternian magic merged with the dark side, and absolute confidence in his own supremacy created an aura that rivaled even Palpatine's presence. "Gentlemen," Skeletor said with dark glee, "shall we begin?" 4 lightsabers ignited, Vader's crimson blade, Palpatine's twin red sabers. He-Man raised the sword of power, golden light blazing. Skeletor's staff erupted with purple-black energy. And the battle that would decide the galaxy's fate began. The first strike came from Palpatine, not a lightsaber thrust, but a wave of pure dark-side hatred that hit like a physical wall. The Force itself seemed to scream as the Emperor unleashed decades of accumulated power. Lesser beings would have been obliterated instantly. He-Man raised his sword, and the power of Grayskull created a barrier of golden light. The dark wave crashed against it like a tsunami against a mountain. The impact sent shockwaves through the throne room, cracking windows and buckling deck plating. Skeletor countered with Eternian magic, weaving spells that twisted space itself. His attack bypassed conventional defenses, striking at Palpatine's physical form directly. The Emperor staggered, actually stumbling back a step, perhaps the first time in decades anyone had physically moved him against his will. "Impressive," Palpatine admitted, genuine surprise in his voice. "Your magic operates on principles foreign to the Force, but I am Darth Sidious, master of the dark side. Your parlor tricks will not—" Vader's lightsaber struck at his former master with lightning speed, the crimson blade seeking vitals. Palpatine blocked with his own sabers, and suddenly the throne room was filled with the sound of plasma against plasma. Master and apprentice, locked in combat after 15 years of strained partnership. "Betrayal," Palpatine hissed, his attacks becoming more vicious. "After everything I gave you." "You gave me nothing but chains," Vader roared, his style aggressive and powerful. "You promised salvation and delivered damnation." He-Man used the distraction to charge Skeletor, his sword arcing toward his ancient enemy with enough force to cleave a starship in half. Skeletor teleported at the last instant, reappearing on the opposite side of the throne room. "Still so direct," Skeletor taunted. 15 years, and you haven't learned subtlety. This is why I always lose on Eternia. I underestimate your straightforward brutality. But here I've had time to prepare for exactly that approach." Dark energy erupted from multiple points in the room, traps Skeletor had set weeks ago, specifically designed to counter He-Man's fighting style. Mystic nets tried to ensnare him. Gravity wells attempted to drag him down. Energy fields crackled with dark-side lightning, adapted to affect Eternian physiology. He-Man fought through them all, his strength and determination proving superior to Skeletor's preparations. But each trap took effort to overcome, and he felt the power of Grayskull draining with alarming speed. The dimensional connection was collapsing faster under combat stress. Across the room, Vader and Palpatine's duel intensified. The Emperor fought with economical precision, each strike calculated to test his former apprentice's limitations. Vader fought with passionate fury, years of suppressed rage finally unleashed. "You were my greatest creation," Palpatine said between strikes. "The chosen one, twisted to my purposes, and you throw it all away for what? Sentimentality, weakness." "For freedom," Vader countered, his blade forcing Palpatine back. "Something you've never understood," power without purpose is meaningless. Power is the purpose. Palpatine's eyes blazed with yellow fire. And you were never wise enough to grasp it. The Emperor unleashed Force lightning with both hands, and this time the attack was focused entirely on Vader. The electricity coursed through his cybernetic systems, causing immediate damage. Vader screamed, his suit's life support beginning to fail. Skeletor saw the opening and made a calculated decision. He teleported beside Vader, and his Havoc staff created a barrier that absorbed some of the lightning. Not yet, Palpatine. I need him alive for now. Fool, Palpatine snarled. You think you can protect him? You think your stolen magic compares to Sith mastery? Stolen. Skeletor's laugh was bitter. I earned every scrap of power I possess through decades of struggle. While you hid behind political manipulation, I faced He-Man in direct combat again and again. I learned, I adapted, I evolved. You're the fossil clinging to ancient traditions. I'm the future. Palpatine's rage exploded outward. The throne room's windows shattered, venting atmosphere into space. Emergency force fields activated automatically, but the message was clear. The Emperor had stopped holding back. He-Man used the chaos to close distance with Skeletor, his sword blazing with combined Eternian magic and force power. This time, his strike connected. The sword of power crashed against the Havoc staff, and the collision released enough energy to crater the deck beneath them. You've become strong, He-Man admitted, struggling against Skeletor's magical defenses. Stronger than I've ever seen you, but you're still serving darkness, still choosing conquest over compassion. Because compassion is weakness. Skeletor pushed back with equal force. Look at this galaxy, He-Man. The Jedi served compassion, and they were slaughtered. The Republic chose democracy, and it collapsed. Only the strong survive here. Only the ambitious thrive. I've simply acknowledged reality. That's not reality. That's cynicism. He-Man's eyes blazed with heroic conviction. People are capable of better. The rebellion proves it. Every act of resistance, every moment of defiance, they prove that hope survives even in darkness. Hope, Skeletor's voice dripped with contempt. Hope is the lie the powerless tell themselves to justify their weakness. I've spent 15 years watching this galaxy, He-Man. Hope doesn't win. Power wins. And I have more power than you can possibly imagine. He channeled everything, all the dark knowledge accumulated over 15 years. All the Eternian magic refined through constant practice. All the dark side energy he'd learned to wield without the Sith's limitations. The Havoc staff became a conduit for reality-warping power. The spell struck He-Man directly, bypassing physical defenses to attack his connection to the power of Grayskull itself. He-Man gasped, feeling the dimensional link to Eternia shudder under the assault. The golden light surrounding him flickered. You see? Skeletor pressed his advantage. You're weakening. The power of Grayskull fails you in this galaxy. But my magic, it thrives here. Every day I grow stronger while you grow weaker. This battle was decided before it began. He-Man dropped to one knee, struggling to maintain his transformation. Skeletor was right. The dimensional connection was collapsing. He had minutes before the power of Grayskull failed completely. But minutes were enough. He-Man looked up, and his expression held not defeat, but determination. You know what I learned, fighting you all these years, Skeletor. Power doesn't determine victory. Will does. Conviction does. And I've never been more certain of anything than this. You need to be stopped. He forced himself upright, drawing on reserves he didn't know he possessed. The power of Grayskull surged one final time, burning brighter than ever before. A desperate explosion of heroic energy that made even Palpatine pause to observe. Across the throne room, Vader had recovered enough to rejoin the fight. His suit was damaged, his breathing labored, but he raised his lightsaber with renewed purpose. He's right. I've spent 15 years serving darkness. Time to discover if I can still fight for something better. Vader and He-Man, hero and fallen Jedi, moved as one toward their respective enemies. The throne room became a whirlwind of combat, lightsabers singing, magic crackling, the Force itself bending under the weight of such concentrated power. Outside, the space battle raged. Rebel ships harried the flanks, while Imperial and criminal fleets clashed in brutal close-quarters combat. Hera coordinated the rebellion's efforts from the Ghost, watching the throne room's energy readings spike off the charts. "Whatever's happening in there," she muttered, "it's rewriting the rules of physics. Sensors can't track half the energy signatures." On the Havoc's throne's bridge, Beastman watched through external cameras as reality itself seemed to fracture around the combatants. "This is beyond anything we've prepared for. If the ship can't contain that much power, then we all die," Evil Lyn said flatly. "But we die witnessing the greatest battle in galactic history. There are worse fates." In the throne room, Palpatine fought 3 opponents simultaneously, and he was winning. Years of experience, absolute mastery of the dark side, and sheer ruthless cunning gave him an edge even against overwhelming odds. "You are all children playing with forces you don't understand," Palpatine said, his twin sabers blurring impossibly fast. "I have lived for decades perfecting my craft. I have toppled republics and created empires. What are you? A misguided hero, a traitorous apprentice, a petty conqueror. None of you are worthy of opposing me." His lightning erupted again, this time splitting into multiple streams that sought each opponent simultaneously. The attack was so powerful, so perfectly executed, that even working together they could barely defend against it. He-Man's barrier cracked. Vader's suit sparked dangerously. Skeletor's shield wavered, and Emperor Palpatine smiled, sensing victory. "Now," he whispered with dark satisfaction, "now you understand. Power isn't about strength or magic or conviction. Power is about absolute mastery. And I am absolute." The throne room trembled, the ship groaned, and 4 warriors stood at the precipice of something that would change the galaxy forever. The moment hung suspended, Palpatine's lightning pushing all 3 opponents to their breaking point, victory seemingly assured. Then something unexpected happened. Something the Emperor, for all his dark wisdom, hadn't anticipated. Skeletor and He-Man moved in perfect synchronization. 15 years apart hadn't diminished their understanding of each other. They'd fought for decades on Eternia, learning every tactic, every strategy, every reflexive response. That knowledge transcended allegiance or philosophy. When facing overwhelming power, ancient enemies became temporary allies with practiced ease. He-Man's sword deflected the lightning stream, targeting him toward Skeletor. The Lord of Destruction didn't try to block it. Instead, his Havoc staff absorbed the dark energy, channeling it through Eternian magic that transformed Sith lightning into raw mystical power. Then he unleashed that power back at Palpatine, amplified and twisted into something the Emperor couldn't simply disperse. The attack struck Palpatine's defenses and actually penetrated them. The Emperor stumbled backward, genuine surprise flickering across his features. "Impossible. You can't manipulate Sith lightning." "I'm not manipulating Sith power," Skeletor corrected coldly. "Translating it into Eternian magic. Your Force and my magic are different languages, Emperor, but I've learned to speak both." Vader seized the opportunity, pressing his attack with renewed vigor. His lightsaber technique was Form V, Gem So, perfected through years of brutal combat. Raw power and aggressive strikes designed to overwhelm defenses through sheer relentless pressure. Against most opponents, Palpatine's superior speed and precision would counter it easily. But Vader wasn't fighting alone anymore. He-Man flanked from the opposite side, his sword work completely different from Vader's, more flowing, more adaptable, drawing from Eternian combat arts that emphasize strength and honor over efficiency. The contrasting styles created a tactical nightmare for Palpatine. Counter Vader's power, and He-Man's fluidity found openings. Adapt to He-Man's unpredictability, and Vader's brutal efficiency punished hesitation. "You fight well together," Palpatine admitted, his sabers working overtime to defend against 3 opponents. "But coordination alone won't save you. I am the dark side incarnate." He released another surge of power, but this time it wasn't lightning. It was pure dark side corruption, a wave of hatred and despair designed to break spirits and shatter wills. The attack targeted the psyche rather than the body. Vader felt it slam into his consciousness, dragging up every failure and loss. Padme's death, the younglings, every atrocity committed in service to this monster. He gasped, his concentration wavering. He-Man felt it too, but differently. The corruption tried to amplify doubt and fear, to make him question whether his heroism mattered. But the power of Grayskull protected him, not through force, but through absolute conviction. He knew who he was, knew what he fought for. The corruption slid off his psyche like water off stone. Skeletor laughed at the attack. "Despair. You try to break me with despair. I've spent decades failing to conquer one castle, Emperor. Failure is my oldest companion. Your psychological attacks are amateur hour compared to my own self-loathing." It was true. Skeletor had long ago made peace with his darkness. He didn't justify it or hide from it. He embraced his nature completely, which paradoxically made him immune to attacks designed to exploit shame or regret. You couldn't corrupt someone who was already corrupted and acknowledged it. The Emperor's confidence cracked visibly. 3 opponents, each immune to his psychological warfare for completely different reasons. This was unprecedented. "Perhaps," Palpatine said slowly, "I've been too conservative in my approach." He deactivated his lightsabers and spread his hands wide. The Force gathered around him, pulled from every living thing in the system. Millions of beings, clone troopers, pilots, criminals, civilians on Coruscant below, all felt a momentary chill as the Emperor drew upon the galaxy's dark energy. "I will show you true power," Palpatine intoned. "Not lightning, not telekinesis, not illusion. I will show you what it means to be the dark side incarnate." Reality warped. The throne room's geometry became impossible. Walls existed at wrong angles, space compressed and expanded randomly. Time itself seemed to hiccup and stutter. This was Sith sorcery at its apex, reality manipulation that approached what the Celestials once wielded. He-Man's power of Grayskull screamed warnings. This wasn't just an attack. It was an attempt to fundamentally rewrite the rules of existence in Palpatine's favor. If it succeeded, the Emperor could simply will them out of existence. "Skeletor!" He-Man shouted over the reality distortion. "We have to stop this before—" "I know!" Skeletor was already casting, his Eternian magic attempting to stabilize reality. "But I can't counter this alone. His power draw is too massive." Vader stepped forward, his damaged suit sparking. "Then take what you need from me. My Force connection, my strength. Use it." Skeletor's eyes widened. "You trust me with that kind of access to your power?" "I don't trust you at all," Vader admitted. "But He-Man does, and he's shown me that sometimes trust is required even when it's not earned." He extended his hand toward Skeletor. "Do it, before we all die." Skeletor didn't hesitate. He reached out with the Force and Eternian magic simultaneously, creating a connection between himself and Vader. Dark side energy flowed from the former Sith apprentice into the Eternian sorcerer, amplifying Skeletor's abilities beyond anything he'd achieved before. The effect was immediate. Skeletor's power doubled, then tripled. With Vader's force mastery backing his Eternian magic, he could match what Palpatine was attempting. He raised the Havoc Staff and spoke words in a language older than the Force itself, the true tongue of Eternia's first mages. Reality stabilized. The impossible geometry corrected itself. Time resumed its normal flow, and Palpatine's sorcery collapsed, the Emperor's concentration broken by the unexpected counter. "How?" Palpatine demanded, genuine fear entering his voice for the first time. "You're not powerful enough to... alone?" "No." Skeletor's form blazed with combined Darkseid and Eternian power. "But I'm not alone anymore. You taught me that, Emperor. You showed me that power comes from using others. I've simply refined your lesson." He-Man took advantage of Palpatine's distraction and charged. The sword of power, channeling every ounce of the power of Grayskull he had left, struck the Emperor's defenses with enough force to crack the deck plates beneath them. Palpatine's barrier held, but barely. Cracks appeared in his force shield. The unthinkable was happening. Emperor Palpatine, master of the dark side, was being pushed back by mere brute force and determination. Unacceptable! Palpatine's rage exploded outward in a nova of dark energy. "I am the Empire. I am the dark side. I am eternal." The explosion sent all three opponents flying backward. Skeletor crashed through a viewport, saved only by quickly cast levitation magic. Vader slammed into a bulkhead with enough force to damage his already failing systems. He-Man tumbled across the deck, his connection to the power of Grayskull flickering dangerously. Palpatine stood at the throne room's center, his robes burnt away to reveal the scarred, twisted flesh beneath. The physical cost of channeling so much dark power. But his eyes blazed with undiminished malevolence. "I will not be denied," the Emperor hissed. "Not by traitors, not by fools, not by anyone." He began gathering power again, but this time even more massive than before. The throne room's energy readings went completely off scale. Outside, the space battle paused as both fleets felt the tremendous dark presence building on the Havoc's throne. Hera watched the sensors with growing horror. That energy signature, if it releases, it'll destroy the ship. Maybe more. We need to evacuate. "No one's evacuating," He-Man's voice came through the communicator. "If Palpatine unleashes that power, half of Coruscant dies. We stop him here or we die trying." He struggled to his feet, every muscle screaming in protest. The power of Grayskull was almost gone now. He had perhaps one more surge left, one final moment of strength before the dimensional connection severed completely. Across the throne room, Vader and Skeletor also rose, both damaged, both exhausted, but neither willing to quit. They'd committed to this battle. They'd face it through to whatever end awaited. "Together," He-Man said, not a question but a statement. "Together," Vader agreed, his voice distorted by his damaged vocoder. "Together," Skeletor confirmed, his skeletal grin somehow conveying determination despite lacking actual flesh. Three warriors, hero, fallen Jedi, and ambitious conqueror, united against absolute tyranny. It shouldn't have been possible. By every logical measure, Palpatine was stronger, more experienced, more ruthless. But they had something the Emperor lacked. They had each other. And sometimes that made all the difference. The final clash began not with dramatic speeches or proclamations, but with simple, absolute commitment to victory. He-Man, Vader, and Skeletor moved as one, three warriors operating in perfect synchronization despite their radically different fighting styles and philosophies. Palpatine met them with the full fury of the dark side. Lightning, telekinesis, reality warping, and pure malevolent will. He wielded every technique mastered over decades of Sith training. The throne room became a maelstrom of conflicting energies, each impact threatening to tear the ship apart. He-Man's sword rang against force barriers with the sound of thunder. Each strike drew upon the dwindling power of Grayskull, burning through his remaining connection to Eternia like wildfire through dry wood. He felt the transformation beginning to fail, his muscles weakening, his enhanced senses dulling, mortality creeping back into his flesh. But he didn't stop, couldn't stop. Not while Palpatine threatened everyone and everything. Vader fought with a clarity he hadn't felt since before Mustafar. Every movement, every strike, every force technique flowed from genuine purpose rather than self-destructive rage. He wasn't fighting as Palpatine's weapon anymore. He was fighting as himself, whatever that meant after 15 years of darkness. His damaged suit was failing rapidly. Life support flickered. Cybernetic limbs responded sluggishly. But his lightsaber never wavered, each strike calculated to exploit the microscopic openings in Palpatine's defense that centuries of combat experience revealed. Skeletor, powered by Vader's channeled force energy and his own Eternian magic, wove spells that defied conventional understanding. He didn't just attack Palpatine. He attacked the space around him, the time he occupied, the reality he stood within. It was sorcery that made even ancient Sith techniques look primitive. "You're all dying," Palpatine observed with cold, clinical precision, his hands never stopping their defensive patterns. "The hero's power fails, the traitor's suit collapses, the conqueror burns himself out, and when you fall, I will still stand. I always stand. I am inevitable." "Nothing is inevitable," He-Man gasped, his golden glow fading to a dim flicker. "Every moment is a choice. Every battle can be won or lost based on decisions, not destiny." "Philosophy from a failed hero," Palpatine mocked. "How touching." "But philosophy doesn't stop lightning." He unleashed another barrage directly at He-Man, concentrated dark-side energy designed to finish the weakened warrior. But Vader threw himself in the path, his damaged armor absorbing the worst of it. The attack fried his remaining systems. His suit went completely offline, life support dying with electronic screams. Vader collapsed, gasping for breath in the suddenly hostile atmosphere. Without his suit, he had perhaps minutes before the damage to his lungs and destroyed tissues killed him. "Foolish," Palpatine said without emotion. "You've killed yourself to save an outsider who will leave this galaxy regardless. That is why you were never a true Sith, Vader. You care. It makes you weak." "No," Vader wheezed, his voice barely audible without mechanical amplification. "It makes me human." Skeletor saw his temporary ally falling and made a choice that surprised even himself. He redirected his power, using Eternian life magic, a discipline he'd rarely practiced, to create a temporary stasis field around Vader's body. It wouldn't heal him, but it would keep him alive for a precious few minutes longer. "Don't think this makes us friends," Skeletor said to the falling Vader. "I just need you alive to witness my victory." "Whatever helps you sleep," Vader managed before the stasis field took full effect. The act of saving Vader cost Skeletor crucial seconds of concentration. Palpatine capitalized immediately, his attack shifting to the Eternian sorcerer with brutal efficiency. Darkside lightning found gaps in Skeletor's defenses, striking the Havoc staff directly. The staff cracked, not destroyed, but damaged enough that Skeletor's spell-weaving abilities diminished significantly. He staggered back, feeling power slip away like water through skeletal fingers. "And then there was one," Palpatine said, turning his full attention to He-Man. "The hero, the champion, the fool who thought conviction could overcome power. Watch as I prove you wrong one final time. He-Man's transformation finally failed completely. The golden light vanished. The power of Grayskull severed, its dimensional connection to Eternia collapsing under the strain of sustained combat. Prince Adam stood where He-Man had been, still muscular and trained, still wielding the sword of power, but mortal now. Vulnerable. Palpatine sensed the change immediately and smiled with dark satisfaction. There, now I see you truly. Just a man. Brave, certainly. Determined, absolutely, but ultimately powerless before me. Adam looked at the sword in his hands. Without the power of Grayskull, it was just a sword, ancient, well-crafted, but not magical. He had no enhanced strength, no supernatural durability, no force abilities beyond the basic sensitivity he'd developed. He was simply a warrior facing the most powerful Sith Lord in galactic history. The logical thing would be surrender. Beg for mercy. Hope Palpatine valued potential servants over corpses. But Adam had never been particularly logical when it came to doing what was right. You're right, Adam said quietly, settling into a fighting stance. I'm just a man. No powers, no magic, no supernatural abilities. Just a prince from another galaxy who swore to protect people. He raised the powerless sword. But that's enough. It has to be enough. Palpatine laughed, not his usual mocking laugh, but something darker. How quaint, the powerless hero making his last stand. This is why the light side always fails. You believe conviction matters more than strength, but I will demonstrate otherwise. I will kill you slowly, painfully, and your death will prove once and for all that power, not principle, determines reality. He began gathering energy for the killing blow, drawing on the dark side with such intensity that the very fabric of space-time began to fray. This wouldn't just be lightning. This would be annihilation, erasure, the complete destruction of Adam's existence. Skeletor watched from across the throne room, clutching his damaged staff. He should let this happen. Should let Palpatine kill He-Man. It would remove his ancient enemy permanently, leaving Skeletor free to eventually deal with the Emperor alone. But something stopped him. Some remnant of Keldor, the man he'd been before the acid, before Snake Mountain, before decades of villainy. He'd spent his entire existence fighting He-Man, defining himself through opposition to the hero's ideals. If He-Man died here, what would Skeletor be? Damn you, Skeletor whispered to his fallen enemy. Damn you for making me care about your survival. He raised the damaged Havoc staff one final time and poured everything he had left into one desperate spell. Not an attack on Palpatine. The Emperor's defenses were too strong. Instead, he targeted the throne room itself, the ship's structure, the very foundations of reality in this space. If I can't have this galaxy, Skeletor shouted, then neither can you. The spell struck, and catastrophic chain reactions began. The throne room's supports buckled, power conduits overloaded. The dimensional instabilities that Skeletor and He-Man's presence had created over 15 years suddenly destabilized completely. Reality began tearing at its seams. Palpatine's concentration broke as he felt his flagship beginning to collapse. What have you done, you fool? Ensured you don't win, Skeletor said simply. I'd rather destroy everything than let you claim victory. The Havoc's throne was disintegrating. Outside, both fleets detected the catastrophic energy readings and began emergency withdrawals. Hera screamed orders to evacuate, to get ships clear before the explosion. In the throne room, Adam ran toward the stasis field holding Vader. He couldn't save himself, that was clear. But maybe he could save the conflicted Sith Lord who'd chosen redemption at the end. Palpatine fled, his survival instincts overriding his desire to kill his enemies. He force-leaped toward an escape pod, his robes streaming behind him. And Skeletor stood at the center of collapsing reality, laughing his skull's laugh. 15 years, He-Man. 15 years building toward this moment, and we both lose. Isn't it glorious? Adam reached Vader's stasis field and began dragging the suspended form toward the hangar. The ship lurched violently, and he lost his footing. The powerless sword slipped from his grip, clattering across the deck toward the void. No! Skeletor teleported, his last spell, his final act, and caught the falling sword. He threw it back to Adam with surprising gentleness. You can't die without your precious sword, fool. It wouldn't be right. Their eyes met across the collapsing throne room. Eternal enemies, ancient rivals, two sides of an endless conflict. Come with me, Adam shouted. We can still escape. And let you be the hero who saved the villain. Skeletor shook his head. No, I'd rather die on my terms than live on yours. Besides, he looked at the dimensional tiers opening throughout the ship. I think I see a way home. Strange how that works. The largest tear in reality suddenly stabilized, and through it, Adam saw impossible mountains and purple skies. Eternia. Skeletor smiled one final time. Tell everyone I died fighting. Make it dramatic. I'd hate for my legend to be diminished by mundane truth. He stepped through the dimensional rift, and it collapsed behind him. Gone. Return to Eternia. Return to Snake Mountain. Return to the eternal conflict. Adam had no time to process it. The ship was seconds from total collapse. He dragged Vader toward an escape pod, muscles screaming with effort, knowing he'd never make it, but trying anyway, because that's what heroes did. Then a familiar sound. Repulsors. The ghost dropped through a hole in the disintegrating hull, its boarding ramp extended. Hera's voice came over external speakers. Jump! Adam threw Vader's stasis-wrapped form toward the ramp. Then he jumped, sailing through vacuum as the power of Grayskull's last residual magic protected him for a few final seconds. He crashed onto the ramp, and the ghost accelerated away at maximum speed. Behind them, the Havoc's throne exploded in a cascade of dimensional energy. The blast consumed everything within kilometers. Fighters, debris, even light itself seemed to bend and twist before the ship's final death scream. On the Ghost's crew deck, Adam collapsed, gasping. The last traces of the power of Grayskull faded completely. He was mortal again, powerless, just Prince Adam of Eternia, very far from home. Hera knelt beside him. Your friend. He went home, Adam said quietly, back where he belongs. And Palpatine escaped. Adam closed his eyes in exhaustion. He always does. But as the ghost limped away from Coruscant's system, returning to Rebel space, Adam allowed himself a small smile. Skeletor had saved him at the end. His ancient enemy, his eternal rival, had chosen Adam's survival over his own victory. Maybe, just maybe, there was hope for even the darkest souls. The ghost limped through hyperspace toward the Rebel rendezvous point at Dantooine, its hull scorched and systems barely functional. In the medbay, Vader lay unconscious in a Bacta tank that Hera's crew had hastily assembled. His damaged cybernetics were removed, revealing the twisted, scarred flesh beneath, the broken body of Anakin Skywalker, barely clinging to life. Adam sat beside the tank, still processing everything that had happened. Without the power of Grayskull, he felt hollow, incomplete. It wasn't just the loss of strength, it was the absence of purpose. He-Man existed to protect people. Prince Adam was just a man. He's stabilizing, Hera said, checking the medical readouts. Barely. Without his suit, I don't know how long he'll survive. We need proper medical facilities, not just a freighter's emergency equipment. Will he make it to Dantooine? Adam asked quietly. Maybe, if we're lucky. Hera studied Adam with concern. What about you? You lost your powers. Can you get them back? Not while I'm here. Adam touched the powerless sword, still strapped to his back. The power of Grayskull comes from Eternia. The dimensional barrier is too strong now. I burned through the connection fighting Palpatine. He smiled bitterly. I'm trapped in this galaxy as a mortal. No way home, no powers. Just a man who failed to stop two tyrants. You didn't fail, Hera said firmly. Skeletor's gone. His shadow empire is leaderless. The criminal syndicates are already fracturing without his control. Corrupted Imperial officers are being exposed and arrested. You broke his power base. And Palpatine escaped to consolidate his empire even further, Adam countered. How is that victory? Because you proved he can be challenged, hurt, made vulnerable. Hera sat beside him. The rebellion has been fighting for years, believing the Emperor was invincible. You showed us he's not. That's worth more than you realize. Before Adam could respond, alarms blared throughout the ship. Hera rushed to the cockpit, Adam following close behind. The tactical display showed Imperial Star Destroyers dropping out of hyperspace around them, 3 full battle groups perfectly positioned to intercept. Impossible, Hera breathed. We changed coordinates, used encrypted routes. How did they? A hologram flickered to life on the communications console. Emperor Palpatine's scarred face filled the display, his yellow eyes gleaming with malevolent satisfaction. Did you truly believe you could escape me? Palpatine's voice was soft, almost gentle. I've been tracking your ship since you fled Coruscant. Every jump, every course correction, every desperate attempt at evasion, I've allowed them all. I wanted you to feel hope before I crushed it. What do you want? Adam demanded, stepping into view. Ah, the powerless hero. How diminished you look without your golden glow. Palpatine's smile was cruel. I want what I've always wanted. Absolute control. Your friend Skeletor understood power, but lacked the patience to truly wield it. You understand heroism, but lack the strength to enforce it. I am the synthesis of both, patient tyranny backed by overwhelming force. You're a monster, Adam said flatly. I'm a realist. Palpatine's expression hardened. And I'm offering you one final chance. Surrender the traitor Vader. Surrender yourself, and I'll allow the rest of your rebel friends to escape. Refuse, and I'll destroy every ship in this convoy, every cell that supports you, every world that gave you shelter. Hera's hand moved toward the weapons systems, but Adam stopped her. Don't. His fleet would obliterate us in seconds. So we surrender? Hera's voice held disbelief. No. Adam's mind raced, searching for options. He had no powers, no magic, no supernatural abilities, just intelligence, training, and desperate determination. We negotiate. There is no negotiation, Palpatine said dismissively. Only submission or destruction. Then you're a fool, Adam replied, and Palpatine's eyes narrowed dangerously. Skeletor may be gone, but his networks remain. Criminal syndicates, corrupted officers, stolen Force-sensitive children. They're all still out there, leaderless and chaotic. You think you can control them? They'll fragment, become independent threats across hundreds of systems. But I can help you. Help me? Palpatine's laugh was hollow. You have nothing I need. I have knowledge. Skeletor shared information about his operations with me during our final confrontation. Names, locations, assets. Surrender that intelligence, and you can dismantle his legacy before it metastasizes into something worse. Adam's voice steadied with conviction. Let us go, all of us, including Vader. In exchange, I'll tell you everything. It was a bluff. Skeletor had shared nothing, But Adam gambled that Palpatine's paranoia and desire for control would make the offer irresistible. The Emperor studied him with calculating intensity, clearly weighing options. "You lie," Palpatine finally said. "Skeletor would never share such information with you. You were enemies." "We were," Adam agreed. "But even enemies recognize when they're outmatched. In the end, he chose to damage your empire over claiming victory for himself. That should terrify you, Palpatine. He hated you more than he hated me." The statement hit its mark. Palpatine's expression flickered with genuine concern. Not fear exactly, but recognition that Skeletor's chaotic legacy posed a real threat to his carefully ordered tyranny. "Very well," Palpatine said slowly. "But not an exchange, a partnership. You and your rebellion become my agents, hunting down Skeletor's remnants, dismantling his networks, ensuring his poisonous influence is purged completely. Do this, and I'll allow your pitiful resistance to continue operating. Oppose me, and I'll crush you systematically. You want us to work for you?" Hera was incredulous. "I want you to serve order," Palpatine corrected. "The galaxy teeters on the edge of chaos. Skeletor's shadow empire threatens to plunge entire sectors into criminal anarchy. Would you rather fight me, or fight the warlords who'll emerge from his collapse?" It was a devil's bargain: survive by serving tyranny, or maintain principles and face annihilation. Adam looked at Hera, at the rebel crew, at the unconscious Vader in the medbay. These people had risked everything to save him. He couldn't let them die for his refusal to compromise. "1 year," Adam said. "We helped clean up Skeletor's mess for 1 year. After that, we're done. No more deals, no more cooperation. And you leave Vader alone. He's under rebel protection now." Palpatine's smile was predatory. "Acceptable. But understand, Prince Adam, if you betray this agreement, I won't just kill you. I'll ensure your precious Eternia feels the Empire's wrath. I've been studying dimensional travel. Eventually, I'll find a way to breach the barrier. And when I do..." The threat hung in the vacuum between ships. Adam's blood ran cold. Palpatine had just threatened his homeworld, his family, everything he'd sworn to protect. But refusing the deal meant immediate death for everyone on the Ghost. 1 year, Adam repeated. Then we go our separate ways. Then we have an accord. Palpatine's hologram flickered. Coordinates are being transmitted. Your first target is a world called Ryloth, where Skeletor's Twi'lek operatives have seized control of major cities. Restore order, eliminate his influence, and report back. Fail, and our agreement ends. Permanently. The transmission cut. The Imperial fleet maintained position, but didn't attack. Hera stared at Adam with a mix of respect and horror. "You just made a deal with the Emperor," she said quietly. "I bought us time," Adam corrected. "A year to get stronger, to help Vader recover, to find allies, and maybe..." He looked at the powerless sword. "Maybe to find a way home." In the medbay, Vader's eyes opened behind the Bacta tank's transparent surface. He'd been conscious for the entire negotiation, listening to Adam's sacrifice principles for survival. It was the most Sith thing the powerless hero could have done. Pragmatic, strategic, morally compromising. Vader smiled for the first time in 15 years. Perhaps there was hope for Adam yet. The Ghost set course for Ryloth, carrying a powerless hero, a redeemed Sith, and the fragile hope that sometimes survival required becoming what you opposed, if only temporarily. The galaxy watched and waited to see what would emerge from this uneasy alliance. 6 months into the agreement, Adam had become something he never imagined, an agent of the Empire, hunting criminals and dismantling Skeletor's legacy while serving the very tyranny he'd opposed. Each mission felt like betrayal. Each success strengthened Palpatine's grip on the galaxy. But each day also kept his rebel allies alive. The Ryloth operation had been brutal. Skeletor's Twi'lek operatives had transformed the planet into a criminal fortress, enslaving populations and hoarding weapons. Adam led the assault personally, fighting without powers, but with the tactical brilliance learned from decades of combat on Eternia. They won, but the cost was high. Dozens of rebel soldiers dead, and order restored through violence that haunted Adam's dreams. Camino was worse. Skeletor had stolen cloning technology and begun creating an army of Force-sensitive soldiers, children grown in vats, their minds programmed for conquest. Adam had to destroy the facility completely, ensuring the abominations never awakened. The moral weight of ending potential lives, even twisted ones, crushed him. On Nar Shaddaa, they fought Beastman himself. The Eternian exile had built a crime empire on the Smuggler's Moon, using dark-side-enhanced abilities to control the underworld. The battle was personal, Adam facing someone from home, someone who reminded him of everything he'd lost. Beastman laughed as they fought in a grimy cantina, his fur matted with blood and dark energy. "You're weak without the power, Adam. Just a man pretending to be a hero." "I was always just a man," Adam replied, his sword deflecting Beastman's clawed strikes. "The power never made me a hero. The choices did." He won, barely, and watched Beastman be taken into Imperial custody. Another piece of Skeletor's legacy neutralized, another small victory that felt like defeat. Through it all, Vader recovered. Rebel medics worked tirelessly, using stolen Imperial technology and creative improvisation to build him a new suit, not the prison Palpatine had designed, but something better. Lighter, more responsive, with a respirator that didn't cause constant pain. Vader practiced combat forms in the Ghost's cargo bay, relearning his body's capabilities. Adam often joined him, two warriors training together, despite their vastly different philosophies. "You've changed," Vader observed during one session, his new voice modulator less mechanical than before. "You compromise now, make morally questionable decisions, serve the Emperor while claiming to oppose him." "I do what I must to protect people," Adam said, deflecting a practice strike. "Sometimes that means getting my hands dirty." "That's what I told myself once," Vader replied. "Be careful, Adam. The dark side begins with small compromises. Before you realize it, you've become what you fought against." "Is that what happened to you?" Adam asked. Vader paused mid-strike. "Yes. I convinced myself every atrocity served a greater purpose, that the ends justified the means. By the time I understood the truth, I'd lost everything that mattered." His tone softened. "Don't make my mistakes. There are lines you shouldn't cross, even to save lives." Their training continued in thoughtful silence. Two warriors bound by shared experience and mutual respect. Hera coordinated operations from the Ghost, maintaining contact with other rebel cells while keeping their deal with Palpatine secret. Most of the Alliance believed they were conducting independent operations, not serving the Emperor's agenda. The deception weighed on her conscience, but she understood necessity. "4 more targets," she said during a mission briefing. "Then the year is up. 4 more of Skeletor's strongholds to dismantle. Then we're free." "If Palpatine honors the agreement," Adam said quietly. "Sith Lords aren't known for keeping their word." "Then we prepare for betrayal," Vader interjected. He'd become an unofficial tactical advisor, his military genius proving invaluable. "Stockpile weapons, recruit allies, build contingencies. When the year ends, we either walk away cleanly or fight our way out." The final 4 targets fell quickly. Onderon's Skeletor-backed insurgency was crushed. Dathomir's corrupted Night Sisters were neutralized. The stolen Inquisitor children were recovered and placed in rebel protection. And on Mustafar, bitter irony, they destroyed Skeletor's largest weapon cache, hidden in the lava flows where Vader had once fallen. Standing on that volcanic world, watching munitions burn, Adam finally felt the weight lift slightly. 1 year, 12 months of compromise and moral ambiguity. But they'd survived. The rebellion remained intact, and Skeletor's Shadow Empire was truly dismantled. "It's done," Adam said into his communicator, broadcasting to the Imperial frequency. "All targets neutralized. Skeletor's legacy is purged. Our agreement is fulfilled." Palpatine's response came immediately, his hologram appearing on Adam's datapad. "Indeed, you've performed admirably, Prince Adam, better than I anticipated, which is why I'm extending our arrangement." "No," Adam said flatly. "The deal was 1 year. It's over." "The deal was 1 year hunting Skeletor's remnants," Palpatine corrected with dark amusement. "But I've been monitoring activity, new criminal organizations rising, former Imperial officers going rogue, chaos spreading across the Outer Rim. The galaxy still needs your unique talents." "Find someone else," Adam replied. "We're done being your hunting dogs." "Are you?" Palpatine's smile was venomous. "I wonder what the Rebel Alliance would think if they learned you've been working for me. If they discovered every operation for the past year served Imperial interests, would they welcome you back or brand you collaborators?" The threat was clear. Exposure would destroy the rebellion's trust in Adam and his crew. They'd become pariahs, caught between the empire they'd served and the rebellion that would reject them. "You're a monster," Adam said quietly. "I'm practical," Palpatine countered. "Continue working for me, and your secrets remain safe. Your rebellion remains intact. Refuse, and I'll ensure everyone knows exactly what you've been doing." Adam looked at Vader, at Hera, at the rebel soldiers who'd followed him through hell. They'd trusted him, believed in him, and he'd led them into a trap with no escape. Then Vader stepped forward, his new respirator hissing softly. "No." Palpatine's expression darkened. "Excuse me. I said no." Vader's presence in the Force became imposing, the fallen Jedi finding conviction in opposition. "You've manipulated me for decades, Master, used me as a weapon, but I'm done. We're all done." He looked at Adam. "Tell the rebellion the truth. Yes, we'll face judgment, but we'll face it with integrity intact." "They'll exile us," Hera said quietly. "Maybe worse." "Probably," Vader agreed. "But exile with honor beats serving tyranny with shame." Adam felt something shift inside him, a weight lifting, a clarity emerging. Vader was right. They'd compromised their principles for survival, but survival without principles wasn't victory. It was just slow defeat. "He's right," Adam said, and felt conviction return to his voice. "We tell the truth, accept the consequences, and if the rebellion can't forgive us, we'll fight the Empire on our own." Palpatine's rage exploded through the hologram, his face contorting with fury. "You dare defy me? After everything—" "We dare," Adam interrupted. "Because that's what heroes do. They stand up to tyrants even when it costs everything. You taught me that, Palpatine. Through your cruelty, your manipulation, your absolute certainty that power conquers all, you reminded me why I became a hero in the first place." "Then you've signed your death warrant," Palpatine hissed. "I'll hunt you across every system. I'll destroy every world that shelters you. I'll ensure your names become synonyms for treachery and failure." "You can try," Vader said calmly. "But I know your tactics, your strategies. I helped design your empire's military doctrine. We'll fight smart, hit hard, and inspire others to resist." "You wanted to crush hope, Emperor. Instead, you've just reignited it." The hologram cut off mid-rage. Across Mustafar, Imperial ships began powering weapons. The trap was sprung. But Adam felt no fear, only clarity. "To the ships!" Hera shouted. "We're leaving now!" They ran through volcanic caverns toward the Ghost, Imperial troops in pursuit. Blaster fire filled the air. Lava flows threatened on all sides. And yet Adam smiled, feeling more like himself than he had in months. They reached the Ghost and launched under heavy fire. TIE fighters swarmed, but Vader, now fully committed to the rebellion, used his Force abilities to create confusion among Imperial pilots. Their formation scattered long enough for the Ghost to jump to hyperspace. Safe in the blue-white tunnel between stars, the crew gathered in the common room. Adam activated a galaxy-wide rebel frequency and took a deep breath. "This is Adam, formerly He-Man. To all rebel cells," he began. "I need to confess something. For the past year, we've been working with the Empire." He told them everything. The deal with Palpatine, the compromise, the moral weight of serving tyranny to survive. When he finished, silence hung heavy over the transmission. Then, unexpectedly, Mon Mothma's voice responded, the rebellion's political leader, wise and measured. "I appreciate your honesty, Adam. What you describe is the reality of resistance. Sometimes we make choices that haunt us. The question isn't whether you compromised, it's whether you learned from it." "I learned," Adam said quietly, "that survival without principle isn't worth the cost. That heroes have to be willing to lose everything for what's right, and that sometimes the hardest choice is admitting you were wrong." "Then welcome back to the rebellion," Mon Mothma said simply. "Not as an agent serving hidden agendas, but as a fighter who understands the true cost of resistance. We need more warriors willing to be honest about their failures." Relief flooded through Adam. They weren't exiled, weren't branded traitors. The rebellion understood that war required impossible choices, and that integrity meant accepting consequences. Vader stood beside Adam, and for the first time since Mustafar, he felt something like peace. "So we're really doing this, fighting the Empire openly, knowing we can't win." "We're doing what's right," Adam corrected. "That's all any hero can do." Outside, the galaxy turned. The Empire consolidated its power. Palpatine fumed at their escape, and somewhere on Eternia, in Castle Grayskull, the sorceress felt Adam's conviction through the Force and smiled. Her champion had lost his power, but found something more valuable, unshakable moral clarity. The war was far from over, but hope endured. 3 years passed. 3 years of Adam fighting without powers, relying on skill, intelligence, and unwavering determination. He became a legend in the rebellion, not as the godlike He-Man, but as the man who'd lost everything and kept fighting anyway. His victories inspired others precisely because they were earned through mortal effort, not supernatural advantage. Vader continued his redemption, training Force-sensitive rebels and providing crucial intelligence about Imperial operations. He never used the name Anakin. That man died on Mustafar. But he became something new, a warrior seeking atonement through service rather than domination. The rebellion grew stronger, emboldened by Adam's example. Mon Mothma often said that He-Man had saved Jedi younglings 15 years ago, but Adam taught them all how to be heroes without powers. On Dantooine, in a quiet moment between missions, Adam stood watching the sunset. The powerless sword of power still hung at his side, a reminder of what he'd been and what he'd become. Hera approached, carrying a datapad. "Intelligence reports Skeletor's been spotted on Eternia," she said. "Back to his old tricks, attacking Castle Grayskull, fighting the local hero." She smiled slightly. "Apparently you've got a replacement, someone calling himself He-Man defending the castle in your absence." Adam's heart clenched. The sorceress must have chosen a new champion, someone to wield the power of Grayskull while he remained trapped in this galaxy. It was necessary, but it hurt. Eternia had moved on without him. Good, Adam said, his voice steady despite the pain. They deserve a protector. Do you regret staying? Hera asked gently. You could have gone home when Skeletor opened that dimensional rift. Instead, you saved Vader. No regrets, Adam replied honestly. I made my choice. This galaxy needed me more than Eternia did. He touched the powerless sword. Besides, I learned something important here. Heroism isn't about power. It's about standing up when it would be easier to fall. I can do that without magic. Vader emerged from the base, his modified armor gleaming in Dantooine's golden light. Adam, Mon Mothma wants us. There's word of a new Imperial superweapon, something called a Death Star. Adam smiled grimly. Then we'd better stop it. As they walked toward the briefing room, 3 warriors who'd been transformed by their time in this galaxy. Adam felt something he hadn't felt since losing his powers. Purpose. Not the cosmic purpose of wielding ultimate power, but the simple, profound purpose of doing what was right because it needed doing. On Eternia, Skeletor attacked Castle Grayskull once again, facing the new He-Man with familiar tactics. But something felt wrong. This champion was strong, brave, determined, but lacked Adam's essential quality. The new He-Man fought like a warrior. Adam had fought like a hero. Skeletor found himself missing his true enemy, the golden fool who'd saved him on the Havoc's throne. Their eternal conflict felt hollow without both participants. In the Star Wars galaxy, the Rebel Alliance prepared for its greatest challenge, destroying the Death Star and striking a blow against tyranny. Adam stood among them, powerless but unbroken, ready to face whatever came next. Emperor Palpatine watched from Coruscant, his plans advancing despite temporary setbacks. 2 Eternians had entered his galaxy and changed it forever, one through heroism, one through ambition. Both had failed to stop him, but both had left legacies that would echo through the Force for generations. The battle between light and dark continued. The eternal conflict between hero and villain persisted. And somewhere in the vast space between galaxies, the Force and the power of Grayskull remained connected. Different powers, different purposes, but united by the belief that darkness could be challenged and tyranny could be opposed. Adam looked up at unfamiliar stars and whispered a promise to the home he'd never see again. I'll keep fighting, every day, every battle, until this galaxy is free or I fall trying. By the power of Grayskull, even if it's gone, I am still He-Man. And He-Man never surrenders. The stars offered no response. But in that silence, Adam found peace. Some heroes wield ultimate power. Others make do with courage and conviction. Both are equally valid. Both are equally necessary. And both, in their own way, can change galaxies. May the Force be with you. More stories await.